took off from St. Croix at 11:11 and arrived in Turkey at 4:44. Jay expertly drove us through cramped city streets to long country stretches. We began our road trip in Sultanahmet and roamed the streets of Istanbul, sipping chai, people watching. The next day, we ambled over the Galata Bridge for their famous fish sandwiches, served right off the boat. A local highly recommended that I take it with their pickle juice, and it did not disappoint. Hagia Sophia or the Blue Mosque are certainly the most popular, but a local shared about the Kamilka Kamai, and we were able to drive right up and walk straight in. There were many rooms we had all to ourselves, and many boasted a full view of Istanbul from a unique vantage point. We drove to rest our heads in Selçuk for the night, where I woke to my first traditional Turkish breakfast to fuel our day to Efes. By chance, we stumbled upon the sweetest gentleman who served us authentic bibimbap, and I was so smitten to have found a Korean community here. We drove further into the countryside and gobbled up some of the best peaches we'd ever had, gifted to us by a kind Turkish lady. One of my favorite parts of road tripping is stopping at your leisure and whatever strikes your fancy. An auntie serving fresh corn on the side of the road lured me into our next stop, and for dessert, this view. We drove into Ovasik at sunset, witnessing the road morph from glittering city lights to steep mountainous terrain to then the Turquoise Coast. The next morning, we began our hike at Lycian Trail. Back on the road, we made regular stops for Turkish coffee for Jay and fresh figs for me. Chestnuts, cherries, peaches, melons, and oranges were also in season, and fresh water flowed everywhere. As we drove deeper into farmlands, we blasted Turkish music over the radio, windows down, hair flying in the wind, surrounded by endless fields of sunflowers. A beautiful scene would frequently catch my eye, and consistently, we would park the car to take it all in. I often feel the rise of nostalgia for this moment. You can hear me bemoan that we may never step foot upon this very piece of earth again, and to that, Jay recently shared that it's what makes it all the more sweeter, which made the moment even sweeter for me. I figured we were riding to our next destination when Jay surprised me with sunset at Lake Salda, which ended up being the highlight of the trip for me. With alkaline waters and magnesium-rich clay, the crater lake is healing and its properties mimic Mars. I have been carrying some heaviness with me this past year that, as we drove away, I felt a rush of humility and gratitude. Playing in the mud had softened something within me, the golden rays of sun touching me deeply, and I began to release and cry. We continued through the night from the rural sprawl of Kaltep to the modern bustle of Kütahya. We departed Asia to return Europe side for our last meal of gözleme, before boarding the plane for our next adventure, India.